Hello and welcome, everyone. Episode 19 of Chirping Zebras. Mark Riley alongside Gino Binda Jr. Coming to you from AOA Studios up in Beverly. Great place to tape your podcasts or your albums or whatever you need to tape. And we want to thank our premier sponsor, Referees Crease. One-stop shop for all your refereeing needs. If you need a referee, reach out to Referees Crease.
If you want to sponsor a podcast, reach out.
Reach out to us. Yeah, we're always
We got
looking.
plenty of space on this nice table here. We can display your products, whatever you want.
Yep. We tag you in the social medias, on the TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
We had a big TikTok recently. We had one from the Stephanie Wood
The
episode.
20K mark.
Over 20,000 views, a lot of comments.
Yes.
Some stupid comments, but a lot of good comments, too.
I like the one of her looks. Like, who the hell? Are you seriously commenting on her looks?
Yeah, you know what? Let's read a couple. It was great. She, a lot of good ones, though. A lot of them saying how she, is doing great for WNBA. She's just so ugly, and which is stupid. And I didn't even respond. You must be joking. There are a lot of ugly male athletes, and no one points that out. Like, still. And then what an idiot. That comment is so unnecessary and has nothing to do with the conversation. I know, but that is why it's hard to like her, which makes no sense. So this is when I jumped in and said, you can't like an athlete if they're ugly. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then everyone else took care of it. It's not me. She's so hard to look at, blah, blah, blah. Jeez. And then the guy says, who, your girlfriend? And another guy goes, no, his mom. so they took care of that.
But they took care of it.
We had some great views on that, which was awesome. And you and I, Pat Shea.
Yes.
Former a guest of ours here on Chirping Zebras. If you don't follow him, you should. He's hilarious. He's doing a YouTube, like a sitcom, a series, and we were in it.
Yeah, I kind of strong-armed my way in it. So,
you did?
Yeah. I was like, go ahead, if you need to join you.
You offered to be a referee.
I offered to be a referee, but then he was like, hey, come on, be your assistant coach.
You were my assistant coach, along with Frankie Chirps, who's roaming the studio. So if you hear any barking, Frankie Chirps is in the house. Yeah. But it was pretty funny. We did a couple days of filming, and we had a blast. Matter of fact, we got a little video of Frankie out in the ice during the filming. Check this out, Frankie Chirps. Definitely a hockey pup.
Oh, that is incredible.
Everyone loves a dog.
You're putting them down and going over.
Okay.
Good. Camera's rolling. And action.
Hilarious. Chasing pucks, chasing his ball all over the ice.
Oh, he was
insane.
Yep.
And he has a pretty big role in it, actually. So I can't wait for that to come out. And the Celtics won the championship.
Banner 18.
Banner 18. They won last week, and the parade was Friday. Boston's back.
Yes.
Finally.
The city was electric last night. The energy in the streets, everything else, it was awesome.
It was incredible. And we finally can hang another banner and now wait for the Bruins to maybe win another one. The Patriots.
I think the Bees, they're closer than you think. They got the core, they got pasta, they got the defense, and they got the goaltending.
Yeah.
All you need is,
All you need
I
is
think the third and fourth lines to me are what wins championships. And you got to have, everybody has a number one line, right? Everybody does.
Everybody.
right? You got to have that best third line, fourth line in hockey. You got to be depth. That's what Florida is.
Well, that's what kills Toronto. They're so top heavy.
Yep.
There's a chasm from second line to third line, and and their fourth line is non-existent. So maybe the Bees can get rid of Lindholm because he does nothing in the playoffs at all other than eat up a shit ton of money. And maybe we can get rid of him and I don't know.
He'll be a good guest on Chirping Zebras.
Yeah, Lindholm. Yeah. We're going to have some. Matter of fact, July 12th, coming up, we're going to do our first live podcast.
Yep.
It's going to happen at Wicked Funny Comedy Club at the China Blossom in North Andover, followed by a comedy show featuring yours truly, along with Tony V and Paul Nardizzi.
That's a monster show.
Todd Angeli is going to be there to belt out the anthem. Our producer, Josh Dolan's going to do a set. And we're going to have some surprise guests, too. We're still working on some former Bruins that are going to stop by and jump on. So that's July 12th. So tickets will be available soon.
Are we going to do a live taping, or is it going to be like a taping?
Yeah. No, live. I think we're going to be live.
We're going live.
We're going live.
We're going live.
We're
Fuck
doing
it,
live.
we're doing it live.
Well, we want to bring on it. We have a great guest tonight.
Yes.
So excited that we're able to finally get him here. He's was the former commissioner of Hockey East of ECAC, the Patrick Lester Award winner from USA Hockey. He's written 5 books. I could go on and on and on, but I just want to welcome Joe BERTAGNA to Chirping Zebras. Welcome, Joe.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Welcome,
guys.
Joe.
You know, did you say Boston's back? It's been like 6 years since our last championship.
Well, yeah, we're so spoiled.
We are spoiled.
Yeah.
We're spoiled.
Right. Your audience in Cleveland's going to be pissed watching this.
Yeah, fuck Cleveland. Oh, no. Who'd we said fuck
Canada.
Iowa. Remember Iowa?
Oh, yeah.
The poor guy in Iowa. We had a reference to Iowa or Ohio or something like that. But, yeah, well,
That's funny.
it's...
We're back.
We're back.
We are
I
back.
remember when the Bruins won the Cup in 2011. We went into the parade. Two of my 2 daughters and I went on the red line. It was packed. It was crazy. And we're driving in, and this 19-year-old, 20-year-old goes, "Oh, I've been waiting so long for this." And I looked at him and I said, "Go fuck yourself. I've been waiting a lot longer than you."
Yeah, right?
And, but it's funny how spoiled we are. And these younger guys don't even know how it is to not win.
Right.
I mean, think of all the years we went through that were dark, with the Patriots and the Sox. And
Yeah, I got a few years on you guys, so I can tell you about the dark years.
Yeah, but where has it been 6 years? Is that
Yeah,
from
18,
when the Red Sox?
and
That's right.
beat the Dodgers.
That's right. So it's
What was the year the Bruins lost the Blackhawks? 13?
that was 2013. Yeah.
We went to the last game. We're walking down out of the building, and there's a guy. I got my 12-year-old daughter with me, and there's a guy dropping F-bombs. Just
Was it me?
fucking Tuca, but it was all about Rask, fucking Tuca, fucking, you can't stop it, fucking, and I'm trying to, geez, my daughter's here, and
Yeah.
he's going on, and finally I look at her, and she goes, the guy's not that wrong, Dad.
No way.
I said, all right, I guess I don't have to worry about that. So.
You're looking at go, well, fuck too.
So that game 6, Chris Rooney, he worked the series. He didn't work that game, but he got us tickets. So my father and mother and sister are sitting in front of me. Me, my buddy Sweeney and his brother. We just had my firstborn, so my wife couldn't come. Was born 2 weeks prior to.
But you were quick to get out
Oh
of the
yeah,
house.
I was. So we were 10 rows right behind Tuca, and my mother was like, "I'd never seen the Stanley Cup's in the house. How the hell do you not want to see the Stanley Cup race? It came right out right in front of us. I'm 10 rows from the Stanley Cup. As soon as that buzzer rang, my mother out of the stadium. She left. I was like, "You're not going to go see the Stanley Cup?" She goes, "No, the Bruins didn't fucking win. I'm out of here." She left. She went outside, had her butt, and we met her outside. I was like, "You got to be kidding me." It was unreal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is absolutely
Yeah.
awesome.
Born and raised in Celtics. She was like, "I'm not watching someone else raise it in my thing."
Good point.
And you bring up Chris Rooney.
Yes.
And we made a post on the socials about the fact that this is his 7th Stanley Cup final that he's working.
That's incredible.
Only American-born referee to even, no one's even close.
No.
To 7 Stanley Cups. And it's just awesome.
That's an incredible feat in itself.
Yeah.
Just working 7 finals at that level.
What
That's
did
incredible.
Stewie do? He must have done a few.
No, unfortunately, Stewie had a tough road. And that American-Canadian thing,
Yeah, back then.
that's a true thing. So I remember
It's
the
not
boss.
it's just not just me.
No, it's not just you. So I went to Paul Stewart. Paul Stewart did a couple of ref schools, so I, attendee at them, and you pick his brain and this and that. And I was heading out to the Coast League, and the boss at the time was his boss. And what he said to me, he goes, "Well, my boss used to say to me every year in the playoff, at preseason, was like, hey, it's going to be tough to 1 year and done in the playoffs again, right before the season even started." So he had some. Stewie really broke that barrier, and he had a tough, hard road in the National Hockey League, and it's just the way it was back then.
Have you risked having him on this?
He was our first guest.
Yeah.
We did risk it, and I said 2 words the whole time.
Gino didn't talk much. He did not talk much that episode.
No, he was he was great. Actually,
I bet he was. He's not shy.
He actually told that story about being told before the season started.
Yeah.
And we had a little, I'm looking it up now, Jay Rooney, Chris's brother, we had a little back and forth. And apparently Bill Stewart, Sr., he worked a couple, Bill Chadwick is the only other American-born referee in the NHL Hall of Fame. And he did a Stanley Cup as well, I believe. So AVH, Andy Van Helmont, is 19.
Wow.
19 cups. And the next one closest, Bill McCreary, 15. Kerry Frazier, 13. Wes McCauley is ref 9. So
he'd probably have a few more if he didn't get injured.
Yeah, no,
what happened
a couple of times he got injured in the playoffs and didn't work the cup finals. So, but yeah, so it just an awesome feat. And another local guy,
Ryan Daisy.
Ryan Daisy.
Yep, local linesman. Working his second final.
Yep.
And he probably would have worked last year? I think he got hurt. He hurt his knee.
I bet Murph and Kevin Collins must have done a few as linesmen.
Oh, yeah. Those guys, they probably...
Both in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both of those are just... both those guys are probably top-notch right up there.
Yeah.
And, I think Daisy kind of filled in those shoes.
Yep. And we had Vaughn Rohde on, former NHL linesman. He unfortunately did not do a cup, but for my money, one of the best linesmen that's ever been done. Ever done the job. So. And
I think it's kind of cool too. The 2 other referees, 1 referee and 1 linesman that are working this year. Johnny A. Bear, the referee. I live with him, and Matt McPherson, a linesman. They're both working their second finals, and I live with them in Reading, Pennsylvania, when I worked the East Coast League. And I'll tell you, working they all work mem cops and all that kind of stuff, and they come down and they get hired. That's how it was. The Canadians would come down, they get hired. But those guys, they're really good. And Matty did 2 years down there, and I saw that kid work his friggin' ass off every single day. He was chunky. And he swam. He found swimming. He worked and worked his ass off to get to where he is. And I can't be more proud of those 2 making the finals too. So congratulations to those 2 and everybody else that made it too.
I'll tell you what, I got to say this Stanley Cup final, as far as the refereeing is concerned, has been, I think, one of the best in a while.
Yeah, the finals have been
now
good.
the playoffs.
Nobody's talking about the referee.
No.
So
No one.
That's a good thing.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, the playoffs in general, there were some games that were, complete dumpster fires when it comes to the officiating, but that's going to happen. But this
Price
final,
of poker gone up, man.
I think it's been great. And when you turn around and look at the Celtics, that series too, the refereeing I thought was pretty good. I think our producer Mike, he's a big Celtics guy. Cam as well, and Zafir, our team here at AOA Studios, and the officiating. I think was pretty good.
Don't you think when you get to the finals, there's so much immediately at stake that they tend to play without the nonsense?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The players play, and
and then you can let them play, knowing that they
exactly.
Yeah.
So basketball, I enjoyed watching, but I can't tell you what a foul is or what traveling is, or
I couldn't either.
it's a different game than I grew up watching.
They take 3-4 steps and then it's up in the air and dunked. I'm
We have a group text with the AOA guys, and I don't know how many times I tell what is traveling?
When that
What
was
is
going on the
I
other
swear
night,
to God,
my
everyone's
daughters had my
traveling.
phone.
Oh my God! It was like in what is it? The Gather, 2 steps after the Gather. I'm like, what the hell is a
What's
Gather?
a Euro step? Somebody told me what a
Eurostep?
Euro step is.
Yeah, it's
Step is a similar step that's like a gather, but you're essentially going from one side to another.
Yeah, so it's a travel.
In a different decade,
One
that would
side
be
to
called
another.
a travel.
Yeah, that used to get you punched in the face in the schoolyard. If you did a Euro step, are you kidding me?
Oh, if you said Euro step, you did.
Well, and if you had Euro shoes on, forget about it. That was a kick to the head. But but we kept going back, and I'm like, I don't understand this, and the foul I don't get, and I there's a lot of basketball that I struggle with, but it was awesome to watch.
It was awesome.
It was awesome to watch.
They dominated all year.
Yeah, it was good, except for Game 4. But you know what? I think they wanted to win it at home, and it worked out.
And $1,000 a seat didn't hurt either.
No. Someone was telling me their friend had front row tickets on the floor, and someone offered him $100,000 for the tickets.
How do you?
Well, he's loaded, and obviously because he had the front row seats, and he didn't.
Yeah.
But $100,000 he was offered for 2 seats.
I would have been at Banners or whatever the name of the bar is.
Yeah, I would
10
have said,
seconds
have at it. Yeah, here you go.
I would have. Oh, I
Let's
would have
transfer it over.
I would
Here
have
you go.
drove him over and drove him home. I would have been
Yeah, I
his
would've
Uber for that money. Are you kidding me?
I would have paid for the Uber.
I would have bought him dinner too. Why not? But let's get into you, because your career has just been remarkable. I mean, and between the goaltending, the teaching, but you're playing right at Harvard.
I've been lucky. I've had a blessed hockey life, and a lot of it. I joke about it, but it's probably true. I wanted to extend my adolescence. I really didn't want to have a job that was, you put a coat and tie and you go to
Sit
a
in a
big building
desk
somewhere, and so I just try to stay around sports, and you blink and it's 50 years.
It's incredible.
So
That's great.
I've had some good mentors along the way, like most of us have had. You guys had them as refs. I had them. Bill Cleary was my coach at Harvard. Tim Taylor was an assistant coach there. I lived with him a few summers, working his camp. Cleary, it's funny, you watch all this recruiting that goes on, these tournaments and showcases, and I was playing in the Eastern Mass. The first year they divided the state tournament in Massachusetts into East-West, and Bill Cleary was the ref. And you make a save, and hey, geez, it's a great save, and he takes the puck, and a week later he's calling you. Hey, I see your grades are pretty good. Do you ever think of going to Harvard? I was 16 years old.
Wow.
And oh yeah, sure. And I'm thinking, is this how it's done?
Yeah.
And in those days, you went right from the public high school to college.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we had freshman hockey, so freshmen couldn't play varsity, which made it easy for a 17-year-old freshman to play with his classmates. And all the colleges had freshman teams. They abolished that in the late 70s. But you broke in with your own age group. We were 20-1 and lost to BU, which started my history of losing to BU. Got it right out of the gate. And then as a sophomore, Cleary was the assistant coach. And then junior year, I played every game for Billy.
It's awesome.
2 years.
So freshmen couldn't play college varsity hockey.
Wow,
I never knew that.
That came in like the mid-'70s. I got out in 73, so it was probably within 3 or 4 years of my graduating. And I remember BU had a defenseman, Vic Stanfield, whose brother was Freddie Stanfield, who played on the Bruins Cup teams. He was one of the first freshman stars I remember. But it actually made a lot of sense. And then, economics come in. Schools can't support. Like we had a freshman team, a JV team, and a varsity. So you had 60-plus guys playing hockey.
I remember the JV teams. Yeah.
Wow.
So they got rid of the freshman teams, and then JV stayed around a while, and then I think Harvard was the last JV team, and now they're a club
team,
ACHA
yeah.
club team. And they're not funded the same way as the other. In the old days, you'd pull a guy up from the JV team.
Right.
You get enough injuries, or guys get the flu, or whatever. You have those extra 20 guys skating. And I coached the Harvard JV team one year with Kevin Hampey, my roommate. And there's a lot of interchangeable parts on a JV team. They're there for a reason.
Right.
We had one guy who was funny on the bus, so we only dressed the road games. I don't know if he ever figured it out, but he'd take the microphone and he'd do impressions. Joe Green and the BZ Copter. He did all these things, and I remember saying to Kevin, "I wonder if he ever figured out that he only dresses road games and why." Because he's kind of fun off the ice. He didn't give us much during the game, but
That is awesome. A Harvard kid couldn't figure it out. That's why. You said you were a 17-year-old freshman.
That was normal.
Now it's like
unheard
some of
of.
them are 22
21,
as freshmen.
yeah. So this year I went to the Harvard UMass game, and UMass had a defenseman who was turning 26 in March.
That's insane.
And if he played against BU and played against
Celebrini,
Celebrini,
was 17,
there'd be a
yeah.
9-year difference between those two
That's
guys
insane.
playing in the same game.
How do you end up 26?
COVID, extra year. You come in 21, 22.
Yeah.
They give everybody a 5th year. He transfers. And
Yeah,
I checked
there you
his,
go.
I don't know what his name. I can't remember his name, but yeah, he was going to turn 26 in March, and Celebrini's still 17.
Yeah. Like people transfer to their 5th year. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
Remember there was a guy played, I think, at UMass Boston
oh, I
for
remember
a
the
season.
story.
He was
yeah.
like 42 or
I think
something.
Division 3 has different rules.
But yeah, wasn't he
But
like
he
in
had
the
a-
Army or something? He came back and
He had a
yeah.
year of eligibility or something.
Yeah, right.
He went out
I remember
and
that.
played.
Yeah.
I think I have a year. I might have,
Yeah.
I can go from playing with the guys at Milton Academy to like picking up some college team maybe.
Wow.
I think I might have a year too.
There you go.
I can. No, I can't. I can barely ref anymore, let alone skate and
My
play.
father-in-law was a ref, Bob Leonard. He ECAC ref for years, and he played for Boston College with Ned Bunyan.
Yep, the bun.
And I remember when I was dating Kathy, Jack Parker, I think he was serious. Yeah, I know your father-in-law. He's got 2 strikes against him. He was a ref and an eagle. and I was waiting for the grin.
Right.
And no grin.
Didn't come.
Yeah.
Well, you had some dealings with Jack Parker yourself.
Yeah, I
right?
told the story right before we got on here. I've told it on the podcast before. So, like I told you, Joe Ross, Andy O'Brien said, don't get in a rules debate with Jack Parker. So I got in a rules debate with Jack Parker.
Jack could have been a great trial lawyer. He could have, taken either side in the case.
So he knew I was young. He knew, like, whatever, right? I was 21, 22 years old, maybe. I think I was 22, 23. One-man system, Division I, RPI, BU. It's open at night. And we had a coincidentals 4-on-4, right? And then I called a major penalty on the kid straight. He played a B.
From Waltham?
Waltham, yeah.
Yep.
So he hit a kid directly from behind and in the end wall. I had no other option. I had to call 5 in game. So now we're playing 4-on-3. RPI's up 4-on-3. RPI scores a goal. Do you get relief?
Nope.
No.
No. So Sean Sullivan and Kenny Roach, 2 Celtic kids, they're the captains. They come skating over. They're like, hey, Gene, we get a guy back. Jack wants to know why we don't get a guy back. I tell Sully, I go, you know what? No, I'm going to go over and talk to Jack, right?
You were young.
I was like, I want to go get yelled at by Parker. So I go skating over, and he's like, why don't I get a fucking guy back? They scored a goal on a power play. I go, that's great, Jack, but this is what happens. I go, 4-on-4, goal scored, no one comes out. Major penalty, goal scored, no one comes out. And I went, and he's still fucking yelling at me. I thought it was the coolest thing. I was like, I just skated by. I was like, I'm right. I knew I was right.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was the best feeling, knowing that you had the answer to the test.
So when Jack Parker's mother died, I go to the wake and say what you say at a wake, and I'm starting to walk away, and he goes, hey, Joe. And I go back, and he goes, I want to talk to you about a ref. And he was kidding me, but he was dead serious. And I thought, oh, my God.
Oh, that's great.
I'm at his mother's wake. And he
least you get a
goes,
sense
and he
of humor.
smiled, goes, thanks for coming. So I told that story to him later on, and he goes, oh, that wasn't even the best line of the wake. I said, you're remembering lines from your mother's wake? He goes, Bernie Corbett, the longtime BU radio announcer, comes up and says, gee, Jack, I'm really sorry for your loss. And Jack says to Bernie, I'm sorry for you. You just lost half your audience. So he's good on his feet, I'll tell you. And
Oh, man.
by the end, Jack and I think, have a good relationship. And but he could be tough.
Oh, yeah.
He could be tough. I think he tested people sometimes, and if you gave it right back, I think sometimes, and if you were right, if you had
Exactly,
if
right.
you had the rule on your side, that helped too. You knew you'd be okay when he dropped whatever the initial argument was and pick up a lesser argument.
Right.
It's like, okay, he's moved on to a different one. I could concede this one.
Oh yeah, he gave the old, you're too young to be out here, the whole thing, and I was just like, I knew I had him right when he said that. I was like, oh, perfect. I go, I won that one.
That's when you push all your chips
Yep,
in.
I was like, yes,
Go
he's
ahead.
up.
I'm
He's
all
coming
in.
down. He's getting personal.
That's awesome.
But it was the coolest thing. Like I never got to ref him again, but I've had
Really?
BU. I never had Jack again, but because I was only 1 year in ECA. I did
gone.
ECAC, and then I went out to the USHL and worked pro
Oh, yeah,
hockey,
okay.
and then I came back to college after that. So, and then I had Albie when I came
I
back.
remember when he had his press conference when he retired. I went to the press conference. I saw him afterwards. I said, Jack, I came for two reasons. One, I wanted to honor you. And second, I wanted to make sure you don't change your mind.
I always thought I'd have fun with him if I ever reffed him.
Oh, he was great.
I always thought that we would have had some nice banter.
I was chalk white. I remember eating my lunch. I'm I was like so nervous having like first time like one man system, 23 years old, whatever, going out there. It was
Good for you.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
Now, as a coach, your interaction with referees, what kind of coach were you?
So I only was a head coach I coached the Harvard women's team. I was their first coach. And actually, I'm laughing now because in those days, they were a club team for a year. Then we became a varsity, but it was so loosely organized. So I assigned my own referees. And my roommate, Rick Ragazio, whose father, Dick, was a referee, I assigned my roommate. And I remember telling the women on the Harvard team, I said, look, if you're going to complain about a call, don't say, Ricky, that's not a trip. The other team will figure it out. Right. You got to say, ref, that's not a trip.
Right.
And I think it was more than when my daughter started playing high school hockey. You know, by day, you're supporting the officials, you're assigning officials, you're getting in the faces of coaches. And then by night, you're watching your daughter, who's a goalie, play. And you know
I know the feeling. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's like, you're looking at the officiating a little different. But the biggest thing when your daughter's a goalie is you're looking at the clock and you're saying, I can't, it's like, I think I turned to see like 6 or 7 minutes would have gone by and it was like 30 seconds. The clock moves very slowly when your kid's playing goal. But I think I had respect for officials. I mean, I spent a lot of time, 41 years, working for one league or another, between the ECAC, Hockey East, and then with Gino with the Eastern Hockey League. Mm-hmm. And when I look back on it, I think most of the coaches in a given year, whatever league it was, are pretty good. Yeah. But the 2 or 3, whatever the number is, that drain all your energy. Yep. And they're really tough on the officials, and they're circumstantial. Maybe the guy's in his last year of his contract, and he's feeling he's got to win, or he's got incentives in his contract. I remember we had one coach when I was at Hockey East. I was driving to a meeting, and I got a call from my PR guy. He goes, so-and-so on off the rails last night. I said, you're going to send me what he said? Oh, you can hear it. I'll send you the MP3 file. I said, oh, we've come a long way. I used to, you have to get a newspaper article and Xerox it and then put it in a fax machine. And so now I'm driving and I hit the buttons and I can hear the guy's voice and he unloads on the officials. So I have to call him. And he goes, oh, yeah, go ahead. You don't want to suspend me? I said, I don't want to suspend you. I said, well, why do you have to? After a game, you've got a captive audience. You've got guys with their microphones next to there are tape recorders next to the mic. They're going to write anything you say. Mm-hmm. You can talk about your freshmen. You can talk about your penalty killing. Why unload on the refs? And his answer was, well, do I have to go to the press conferences? I said, yes, you have to go to them. And you should look at it as an opportunity. I said, Bob Johnson, it's a great day for hockey, Bob Johnson. Yeah. He could lose 8-1 and walk in and talk about the one goal was the best goal he'd seen all year. Everything was positive. But some of these coaches some of them are wound pretty tight, and they're making a lot more money than they used to. I grew up in an era where we knew guys by their nicknames, Snooks and Cooney and Red, and even Jack and Jerry. You know who you're talking about. Yeah. And these guys are very good coaches, but they're also allowed just to coach. They have the director of hockey operations. They have the director of this. They have the assistant director of hockey operations. They've got all these minions around them. And they can really focus on coaching. And with the video stuff you have, and they break down, they know everything about their opponent. And some of them are absolutely terrific. I don't know if I'd want to spend time with them, away from the rink, because they just seem very uptight and obsessed with success. And I do feel for the coaches now, because we had our recent convention in Florida, and there was an undercurrent of unease with the transfer portal and the money that's being tossed around. And I talked to a coach who's about to coach his 25th and last season, not a Hockey East guy, and he says he can't wait to get out, which is kind of sad.
That is sad.
But all these kids going into the transfer portal, it's something like 20% of college hockey players have put their name in, and now you've got agents shopping around, you've got some coaches actively trying to get a kid. And it's not a great culture right now. No. In terms of trust and the way it used to be.
Now, when they enter the portal, does the team that they play for know that?
Yeah.
They do know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, in some cases, it's been compounded by the NCAA giving the 5th year. So
Right.
a kid may have played 4 years, got his degree,
And
he has a chance to go play someplace else.
Right.
And maybe he's in a mid-level program, and he had a great 4-year career, was better than people thought he'd be, and now the Big Ten wants him or some other school, because some of those big schools are losing guys to the pros.
Right.
And they find out late, now they've got to replace somebody, and,
Well,
they can go get him from another school. He's already proven. I asked one coach, I said, how's this work? This guy is coaching in Northern Michigan, and he's leaving to go coach in the American Hockey League now. And he said, I'll find somebody that nobody knew about, and he has a great freshman year. And all of a sudden, Ohio State or somebody loses a star to the pros. They turn around and they say, how did we miss this kid the first time around?
right.
And then they go get him. So he's lost a guy that was projected to be their first or second line center. I said, well, who do you get? Because I get the reverse. I get the guy that the big school recruited and he never lived up to things. And they've got him in the 4th line.
Right.
And he'd be my second line center. I'll take him.
That's what, like Bentley, that happened to Bentley. Like their leading scorer, I think, went to Maine. Just stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, how
I
did
heard
they?
the whole first team, I think, in Atlantic hockey, all of the guys are playing somewhere else. This
Yeah,
year.
they all. Wilkie left.
The goalie
Yeah, the
from our
goalie
team.
left. Yep. For AIC, where did he go? Merrimack. Yeah.
So
That's a
it's-
great.
it's-
That's a great
it's-
goaltender for Merrimack.
Yeah, that whole system just seems really whack to me.
Well, there's
Like-
also money being thrown around. This
Yeah.
Image and likeness thing where the coaches will say the kids aren't asking anymore about, what's the alumni network like, what jobs, like how much you going to pay me?
Right.
And so you get tuition, room, board, books, cost of attendance, and then you get this lump sum. And nobody really knows where it's going. There's stuff in the courts now, and Dartmouth's unionizing, and the athletes will be treated like employees.
That's
So
wild.
Nobody knows what the end game here is.
And it just sets up a situation where I could see a couple years down the road. There's going to be no rivalry. There's like the rivalries are all going to suffer because you're supposed to play for a school for so many years and build up that hatred. Next thing you know, the kid's in the portal and he's jumping here and he's jumping there. I mean, honestly, it kind of sounds a little like the club hockey, where a kid tries out for one program, doesn't make the Tier 1 team and is pissed off,
And then he
leaves
goes play
that
the Tier
program,
1
goes
down
to
the
another
street.
program,
Yeah.
has a tough year there, gets on offer over here to go play. And now there's no continuity.
I would have commute to practice. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, what if a kid goes in the portal and he doesn't get picked up? Like, is he going to go back to the school that he was going to
Can.
leave? Like, how does
But
that
he's already
work?
tipped his hand that he's not happy.
Right.
And,
Right.
And then what if the coach says, now we're good?
Yeah.
Like, does he completely lose?
That's a great point.
Everything. Like, if a kid, say, at BC says,
Hey, I had
I'm
to
going to go in
change
the
the heart.
portal.
I
I
had to
don't
change
think
that.
he lose. I mean, if he's on a scholarship, he's for 4 years, and just because he's entering it, I don't think he inherently loses it. But it changes the relationship with the coach.
I would think. I mean, it's like, it's basically
Has to,
free
yeah.
agency.
It is.
But it's free agency without a contract because you can go in and out of the portal as many times as you want. At least I don't know much about it, but it seems like if I go in the portal and go play for there and I don't like it there, I can go back
But
to the portal.
I think
and
these
go-
kids are entering the portal probably knowing where they're going to go before they enter it. I think that's
yeah.
a lot. Like you said, there's a lot of agents
Yeah, there's a lot of
involved
people-
in it, and there's a lot of stuff going on like
And
that.
the athletes too. Sometimes the kid says, "Hey, you ought to come out here. It's great.
Right,
New
yeah.
rink. The coach is awesome. They need a right shot defense. So,
Like the Lovell kid, like Timmy's kid, he went
Yep.
from Arizona to Michigan. I think he's going to Michigan. So
buy
he's-
some winter clothes.
yeah, he
I was
went.
gonna say I wouldn't
Yeah,
make
right.
that. I wouldn't make that portal switch.
right.
I'd go
I
the
had a
other
friend
way.
of mine who just got divorced, and I asked her what happened. She goes, "Oh, I'm in the transfer portal now." She's
That's awesome.
looking for a third.
Looking to get picked up by someone.
Yeah,
I'm in the portal.
That's awesome. That is a whacked system, though.
it is.
I mean,
and
it
the money
really-
too they're throwing around. So it's not the.
And it's
not the
not
game
just
we
hockey,
play.
right? It's
Oh, no.
any
And
sport.
hockey's money is small compared
right.
to what
The basketball, football money.
Football, basketball, crazy.
Yeah. But
like
that
somebody
portal
said
thing
Caitlin
is
Clark should have stayed at Iowa. She would have made more money there than at the
She would have, yeah.
WNBA.
Yep, she
But
would have.
She did say she entered the school with the same class. They were all moving on, and she was ready to move on.
I think so. I mean, what else? She's going to stay and win a championship. Is that?
Well,
I mean, that's pretty cool.
like I was naive thinking, BC came close. Maybe some of those guys will stay because they didn't win it.
Yeah, I thought
I
so
think
too.
they're all just
Yeah,
taking
see ya.
off.
Well, I bet Celebrini's gone.
I would think so.
I mean, I don't know. He's
I think one or two. I think one of the kid. I think Leonard's coming back from BC. I think
Oh,
Smith
really?
is going.
What about the goalie, Fowler?
I don't know.
Yeah,
He was good.
he was real good.
those teams. I think they could have beat some pro teams.
Yeah, they were.
That was a
They
good
were
final.
fun to watch.
That was a good final.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's in St. Louis next year, then it's in Vegas, and I've never been to Vegas, so
So
gotta
this.
stay involved so I can go to Vegas.
So
Somebody else's
Hang
dime. Yeah.
So Neil just sent me over the schedule for the finals, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, fuck, that's the same weekend as the Frozen Four. So our finals in
really?
Providence the same weekend. So I tell my old man, I'm like, what am I going to tell Neil? He goes, fuck it, I'll go. I was like, perfect. I go, they'll love you. So Neil sent my old man and Andy O'Brien down.
There you go. Throwback days.
Yeah.
And that's for the EHL.
Yeah, well,
They do the
you have
Providence.
to be there because the finals they do the replay for it. So
Right.
I feel obligated to I should be there, right, running the referees for it. So I mean,
Yeah, but it's not like you're going to the Frozen Four for a vacation.
right, exactly.
part
Yeah,
of your
I'm going
job.
from my job. Yeah.
But that EHL thing is kind of cool.
Oh,
what
the
they
week
do.
down in Providence. That's a good. That's a good take.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
it's a long week, but
That fell out of the sky for me after I lost the Hockey East job, and I at first I thought, junior hockey, I don't know, these guys are paying all this money, and philosophically, like a kid's not a full-time student for 3 years, and he goes. But then I get there and I watch the job that they do.
Yes.
They put about 100 kids into Division III, and
They really care about their kids,
The
yeah.
coaches are, there were a couple of nitwits here and there.
like you said, the one or two pain in the asses,
Right.
and
Drained all your energy, but most of the guys were really good. They
Yep.
do a good job preparing these guys. The hockey, because we're watching guys that are going to D3, you've got to watch closely to see who the best player is. There's
Yes.
a lot of guys roughly the same level.
Yep.
The one thing I would disagree that they do is if a kid commits to an ACHA program, they don't publicize it on the website because they don't want that. They don't want to have a reputation as a league that puts guys into club hockey. It's the league that puts guys into NCAA.
But it should be
D3.
collegiate.
But I think these kids are paying, and they're in many cases that's their best option, or they're really happy to go to that Division I.
And some of those club teams are
promote
pretty
it
big.
and promote them. Yeah, absolutely.
and they're huge nationally too. I mean,
Yeah,
they
they're-
got some really good recognition. And,
Though I got an email the other day in my job at the Coaches Association of AAU hockey, which I had not didn't have a familiarity with, and the guy wanted to have the whole AAU group join the American Hockey Coaches Association. So I actually have a call tomorrow morning to see
That'd be interesting.
how we could do that. But it sounded like there may have been a group that not all club hockey is under ACHA, right?
Right.
It's different.
The AAU is just basically like a insurance policy, basically.
They have a different.
Right. Type
Okay.
of back. Instead of, if I want a secondary insurance, you can get your AAU, and it's basically the same price that you pay for USA Hockey.
Okay.
But
But they don't play under the ACHA banner. It looks like it's their own.
it's their own thing,
organization.
yeah.
And some of those club teams, I
good.
mean, they could compete and beat a lot of D3
Yeah.
teams.
And they have their big tournament every year, and yeah.
I remember when Endicott went from club to varsity, they didn't miss a beat. I mean, they also had a bunch of Division I transfers, but
Right.
they had a good base from
Good.
the club group they had.
I mean, that's what RIT did too. RIT came in, they won the league, and they couldn't go to the playoffs. They were D3, and
Yeah,
then they
they
jumped
moved
in.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they weren't club,
Yeah.
but they jumped up. But
Now, didn't they win the Atlantic this year?
this year they won. Yep, they won
Yeah,
the league.
RIT.
They had the goalie. Wilkie was. They had a pretty good team. Yeah, Wayne Wilson does a good job.
He
With them.
does, and Brian Hills is assistant.
Hills is great. Yep, and now they got all their scholarships, and they're gonna get. They'll be competitive, I think, for years to come. So, I want someone in Atlantic hockey to like you have Quinnipiac and like Cornell and ECAC. They kind of just dominate and just take that league over. But like Atlantic hockey, I feel like it's always someone different.
AIC kind of.
AIC's always Eric does a great job. Like it's always like AIC, RIT,
Right.
but like you want them like dominate and get into that top 5 to get in that top 10. So then you get two teams into the tournament,
Yeah.
right? They're always good and competitive.
I'd like to see Bentley. They got a beautiful facility. They've got a good reputation
Yes.
in the Boston area. You think it'd be an attractive place for guys to go.
They just changed coaches over, and I think Andy's going to do Andy Jones.
Yeah.
He was at Lowell before.
Holy Cross had a great year.
Holy Cross, Billy's does a great job there,
yeah.
and I think their stud's coming back. I don't think they lost him.
McCanny?
but yeah,
Yeah.
something.
Liam McCanny.
Yeah, that kid's really good.
Or is he McClinsky?
McClinsky, yes,
McCanny's a
McClinsky.
Division III All-American.
Yep,
right?
no,
I've got all
McClinsky.
the-
Yep.
It was a mixed something.
It was
Yeah.
a mix something. I knew that.
Yeah.
It's funny.
He's phenomenal.
You mentioned something a while ago about being a parent of a goalie and watching the clock, and referees do that too.
Yep.
And it's funny because Andy Van Hellemond said, "Never look at the clock until you think it's past the 10-minute mark, because if you do, the game becomes much longer."
Yeah, you're right.
I always every game, even now, even if I'm doing a midget game, I'll wait and
I
try to
me
not
too.
look.
And then you guess, right? You're like,
Yeah.
it's 12. And you're like, fuck, 15.
Yeah. Or you hope you go, we're probably at about 10 and you look and it's at 7. You're like, yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I
that's
love
the
it.
best.
Hey, I want to ask you as refs, the one penalty, and I don't think it's been a factor in the playoffs this year, but a couple of years ago in the Stanley Cup playoffs, shooting the puck out of the rink, that's an automatic
Yeah, it's
penalty.
still a penalty.
And it would happen
Yeah.
late in a one-goal playoff game, and some of them aren't even remotely intentional.
Right.
Yep.
And I just think it's one of the stupidest.
I agree. I always hated calling
Well,
it.
the reason why they did it was because they wanted to take away the discretion of the referee as
Right.
far
Well,
as.
how
So
can
it's
you prove
automatic.
judgment? Like, yeah, how can you prove intent?
Well, that was the reason
Right.
why they made it automatic.
Right.
Was that it didn't matter whether or not you thought they were doing it
Right.
on purpose
But
or
if
not.
the guy's, in a tie game, in overtime or a minute left, and there's no way he's intentionally shooting the puck out of the
No.
right? And I'd rather they say you get a warning first time, and then if anybody else on the same team does it, it's a penalty.
That would
But-
make more sense.
But they've called, and again, not this postseason, but there were a couple in the last few years where in big moments,
Yes.
some guy just, he's trying to do that flip off, and it's like, oh, no.
I remember one time I forget where I was, but I was a playoff game in the East Coast League, and it was like a 5-on-4, and they wanted to ice it, and like the sticks clacked, and it was
Yeah.
boom, boom, and out of play, and I'm like, I had no idea. The linesman, unless if someone had definitively, hey, that puck's straight out, I'm like, what do you guys got? You got it straight out? You got it straight out? They were like, nope, and I'm like, let's
Yeah,
go,
absolutely.
right? Like just because no one was 100%, and like, why are we gonna call that fucking penalty?
Yeah.
Like it's.
Well,
What's
that-
best for the game?
that-
And what I always say, what are you going to hear 10 seconds of bullshit for more? Or are you going to hear, if you call that penalty, you're going to hear for it the rest of the game. If you just like let it go, you get like 10 seconds like, come on. And then nobody's really going to give you too much shit for that one.
You know what? When I came up, that wasn't automatic.
Right.
Pro or, in the USHL or any of those, it wasn't
I think it was
automatic.
just when the goalie did it.
Well,
Right, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I should
I-
have got an award for
Right.
shooting it out of the rink if I
Matter-
could lift it.
well,
Yeah.
I don't think it was automatic even on the goalie because
the
I'm
I think
going-
it was.
yeah, the
it
college-
was. It was
all
automatic,
along?
yeah. It was automatic if the goalie shot the puck
The
out of the
goalie
ring.
was different.
The goalie was different, yeah.
In
Yeah.
so many ways.
Well, because I called it. That was one of the reasons why. One of the things that I think put Donnie Granato over the edge in Green Bay in Game 3 of the USHL Finals.
Yeah.
I called that on his goalie and put him down 5-on-3, and he had tried to attack me in between periods, and we have since made up, but. It was a crazy first period. And Green Bay was the most penalized team. Rochester, least penalized team. And, of course, Green Bay came out and tried to run them out of the building. It was in Green Bay.
Oh, those are the worst
And
games.
I called a bunch of penalties on Green Bay and maybe one on Rochester, and he lost his mind, grabbed me in between. And we would have went if Scott Zingerman didn't grab my arm and the owner of Green Bay grabbed
Was
him.
Zing wearing jeans?
I'm sure he had to be. He only wore jeans, right? And his pink sport coat or whatever he wore. But the goalie came out and looked, and there was guys coming down. He just fired it right out of the rink, and I was like, "That's
Play a game.
Obvious.
easy,
Yeah.
right?"
for
But
coming.
but the other thing, that's one of those rules where it's like, how can you? We don't referee intent. Right. You referee action, you referee result.
Yeah.
Right? Because like a kid goes in and hits a kid, you can't guess, did he mean to do that or not? If he knocked the kid out with an elbow, whether he
It
meant to or
just
not,
seems, you got a game where guys are going back and forth. They're letting them play because so much at stake, and there's hits and all this physical stuff, and all of a sudden, and now there's a power play that decides the game.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
It happened in this year, like game 1 or 2, I think. It was like 2 minutes to go, and
You got to look at that.
I think you're right. Yeah, it did happen.
they flipped it over.
I was telling Gino, I was at the USA Hockey meetings last week, and I'm on the rules committee, and somebody proposed that if a guy gets a game misconduct with less than 5 minutes, he has to miss 2 games because he didn't really miss much of that game. And that had been proposed in college hockey and defeated. And so I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I said, let me ask you a question. Guy elbows a guy in the head with 5 minutes and 11 seconds left, delayed penalty. When the ref blows the whistle will determine if he has to sit out 2 games or 1 game. If he blows the whistle with 5:01 left, he just misses the rest of the game. If he blows it with 4:59 left, he has to miss that game and the next game. Does that make sense? And it didn't pass. So.
Good.
Thank God.
So I justified my per diem and my plane ticket and my hotel because I contributed to the conversation.
Right. I wish the one rule that, aside from the automatic offside, which I don't like in USA Hockey, the one thing I hate is, I'm sorry, it's college hockey that I hate, not throwing out the center.
I think they're going back to that. I think
so.
they found that the last 2 years didn't work.
It's just useless. It's always
What do you
been
think
useless.
about they've changed the high stick from the crossbar 4 feet to the player's shoulder. So if you're a ref and you don't have the crossbar as a point of reference, you can see whether the guy has it above his shoulder.
That was the way it was before. Wasn't
That
it?
was a pro rule.
Yeah, pro rule was the shoulder and not the net.
I made a mistake of making a poor reference when I explained this. They said, what was that? I said, well, if you're Chara,
Yeah.
you're 6'7", you can hit him pretty high. And if you're Mickey Rooney, and they all looked at me like, and I realized these people don't know who Mickey Rooney is.
I know who Mickey Rooney is.
Let me try somebody else. Johnny Gaudreau. Johnny Gaudreau?
Now, is that...
That's this year.
That's
in
for
college,
goals?
College. No, any high sticking anywhere on the ice.
Oh, anything.
It's now the shoulder height instead of the 4 feet.
for a high stick penalty?
High sticking the puck.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's right.
And the other one they finally got rid of is if you score on a delayed penalty, you don't get the power play on top of that.
Yeah, I hated that too.
Yeah,
'Cause I think they were college hockey was the only one that gave you the
Only one
goal
did that.
and the power.
I had a coach in Atlantic hockey. He was on that rules committee that put it in, and then as soon as that didn't get passed, he texted me.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Wow!" I was like, I know you like it because we had a beer at the thing, and I was like, oh, it's funny.
Yeah,
we went back and forth.
That one didn't make. I never liked.
Well,
that
he's
either.
like, well, you didn't get your power play. Like the whole argument was like, well, you didn't get your power play.
Yeah, having a sixth skater isn't really a power play.
Yeah,
it's
it's
still
like
6 against 6.
Yeah, you still committed the crime. You didn't do the time, right? So that's kind of
get
the
it.
reason.
The other one people
good argument.
debate is the why should you be allowed to ice the puck when you break a rule, you have a penalty. So we're going to give you a little bit of a break. Your guy goes off the ice, but now we'll allow you to change the icing rule. All right. So somebody proposed that if the team that has the penalty can ice it, why can't the team that's on the power play ice it? If they make a stretch pass that goes, why should that come back?
Right.
And they get penalized for icing, where the other team can thumb its nose the whole time because they can ice it for 2 minutes.
Right.
Interesting question.
I don't think that passed. But it wasn't. Philosophically, it's like we're going to give the team that broke a rule the ability to ice the puck. But you that are on the power play, you have to play by the old rules. You can't ice it.
Right.
It's a good argument.
They're not going to ice it that often, but the one play would be they try to break some guy and it's just too far ahead.
Right.
They should just play on. Go
I like
chase
that.
it down.
Moving puck, clock's ticking. Let's roll.
Moving
Hockey
puck.
night in Boston rules. No icing.
Moving puck is a happy puck, right?
Yep, exactly.
Summer rules: no ice outside, no ice inside. and that was the only time you'd call icing in the summers if a team was on the power play and ice the puck.
Yeah.
That was the only time we'd call it and would bring it down.
I didn't even do that, I don't think, and that's probably why me and Sweeney got yelled at a lot. We never called it. Yeah, I mean, we watched Jimmy Doyle and my father go out there, and they executed it perfectly, and no one said nothing to them because everybody knew.
There were no laws that would prevent your father and Jimmy Doyle from working together?
No, there was no laws on that.
Should
should have been,
in every other country on the planet except the U.S. They weren't even allowed.
They absolutely
most countries.
tortured people. Oh my God, I watched them torture. I used to go anytime my father was reffing, I would hop in the car and go with him.
Why not?
And I would just watch those two just They tortured Dan Shine. They would torture all of them. Yeah.
Turkey McBride. you
Oh
know,
yeah. Yeah. Turkey was great.
And when I played, the refs were like your uncles. They were just nice. I mean, Bobby Barry was in the Northeastern Hall of Fame. I got lit up in the bean pot. Lost to BU 8-3, and when the 8th goal went in, he bent down behind me to get the puck, and I heard him say, "Don't worry, Joey, it's almost over." If a ref said that to a kid today, he'd whack him.
Oh my God,
and
yeah,
with
right.
me, it was just thinking, "Can you promise, Bobby?" I hope so.
Almost over.
I mean, yeah, because the relationships were there.
Much
We weren't
better. Well,
bad guys. We weren't looked at as
the
like,
other
oh,
thing is,
they're awful. Don't
Before
talk to them.
guys could go play pro hockey, the All-Americans, the Bill Clearys, Bob Cleary, Jack Garrity, I don't know if you know any of these names.
Nope, I know the
Bill
Clearys.
Riley Sr. These guys are like in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and they were the guys reffing our games.
Right.
So we had respect for them because we knew who they were before they started reffing.
Right.
They were great players and from our area. Right. And so you didn't think of raising your voice.
No.
My favorite is when the kid chirps us, and so you talk back to him and say whatever you're going to say, and the coaches don't talk to my players, and it's like, wait a minute, why are they talking to us then? Why are they talking to me?
Right.
If they're going to talk to me, I'm going to talk back to them. And I'm not saying tell them to go F themselves because. My theory on swearing. We differ.
Yeah,
But,
I can't help. It's just
I
another
know,
word to
you're
me.
just
I can't
You're
help
just
it.
a Southie kid. Yeah. You can't help it. But I love when the coaches would say, don't talk to my players. And it was like, no, that's not the way it works. Tell your players then not to talk to me.
And then you
But
go
it
up.
depends what you say. So
That is-
at Hockey East, there was a game, I gotta get this right. I think it was Ohio State at Providence. And I got a call from the Ohio State coach on Monday saying, I just have been, this has been bothering me all weekend. I had to give you a call. I said, what's the matter? He said, we had a scrum. We were losing, it's like 7-3 early in the third period. And there was a scrum, and the ref knew the Providence player, and he was calling him by his nickname. It was Brian Pino. And he's calling, Peens. This one's over. Let go of him. This one's over. And the player came back to the bench and said, Coach, they know these guys. They're calling them by their nicknames. And he said, it's over. I mean, I know we're behind, but should I hear him tell the other team that his best argument to break up the fight is this one's over, you got this one.
Right.
And I'm thinking, I probably should call the supervisor and say, maybe you tell the guys to keep their mouth shut, or say number 11, but don't show the familiarity you have with
The nicknames I agree with, but like any kind of tactic you can get them to come back and talk
But
to
you
you.
got to
and, like, come
understand
back.
how the other team is. They come into a building where they think they're going to get screwed.
Right.
Whether any legitimate reason to think that or not. But that's
Right.
That's
You
the
can. You have to
mindset.
articulate that.
And this might have been the second night of a 2-game series, and who knows what happened on Friday. I just think the less they say, the better.
I
This
agree.
is your
Less is
world,
more.
not my world. But I've been on the receiving end of calls in all these years where you're listening to it. It's like you just wish the guy had just kept his mouth shut.
So there's been games I've had in college hockey, like the UNH coach Mike Souza. I've known him for a long time, and some of the games you just kind of get like loose and relaxed, and you start having like a decent conversation with them beforehand. Hi, how's life,
Yeah.
and this and that, right? And then it's like the first line change. It's just an easy back and forth. Second line change is an easy back and forth. Third, fourth one. Hey, come on, you gotta call that son of a bitch. And I'm like, man, I engaged him too long, and now it's like I have to so now I have to continue to talk to him all game long, and then I have to shut it off, right? And the more you talk, you get yourself in a hole because you're constantly having to defend
I used
yourself.
to love Grav would let a guy go, then finally he'd just say, "Are you done?"
Yeah.
And the guy go, "What? Are you done? I
you
heard
done?"
you." And skate away, and the guy doesn't know what to say.
Right.
He was expecting he wouldn't engage or he'd yell it back. He goes, "Are you done?"
Yeah.
Right.
And it disarms
You feel better?
You have to. Oh, absolutely. And I think you make a good point. Like, it definitely matters what you say, right? And I'd call a guy certain leagues you work. Pro hockey's different because you work that league. You don't see in the East Coast League. You don't see a Southern Pro team coming into play, right? So it's a little different in college. You got that crossover between leagues, so it is a little different. But you use a nickname. You don't say it's over. Don't worry about it. You already won. That's just stupid.
Yeah.
You could say, Peens, come on.
Break it up.
That's it.
Break
That's
it
it. Let's keep playing hockey, whatever. But you don't say it's over.
I had a ref we had a 5 overtime game in the quarterfinals.
geez.
UMass and Notre Dame when Notre Dame was in the league.
I think Terrence Murphy did that one.
I think Scott Hansen, or it might have been both. I don't know, but there was you get in overtime, you kind of let things go a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
But it's one thing to call it that way. It's another to say to a kid, "I'm not deciding this game." And I talked to the supervisor. I said, "Look, you can decide a game by what you don't call as well as what you call."
We've said that before.
And if that's your mindset, there's no reason for you to articulate it to a kid.
Right.
Because he's now thinking, well, we can do anything we want here. What does it mean you're not going to decide this game?
Right.
Just, it's again, when you say something that's not necessary, you get yourself in trouble.
Oh, we say it all the time.
We always say you can't shove the toothpaste back into the tube.
Yeah.
Yep. We always say that on our Monday nights. Yeah.
And that's why I'm very rigid when it comes to swearing. Like I always say, don't swear at a player, don't swear at a coach, because you open the
escalates
door.
things.
Yeah.
It
You open the door.
Yeah.
And now they can say whatever they want. And if they tell you to go fuck off, now you can't threaten anything or give them a penalty for
Right,
it
'cause
because
you
you
would-
already told them that.
Right.
And that I learned from Andy Van Hellemond. Like, you just don't swear at a coach or a player. Plus, it's disrespectful. It's unprofessional.
Right.
I mean, you can go down the list. And, there's been plenty of times where I'd like to tell someone.
Sure.
But that just does not help the situation.
No.
Why say something
And
to
I think
escalate?
it takes something out of your arsenal, too, because if the coach is doing it now and you've already kind of crossed that line,
Yep.
it makes it a little harder for you to slam him for the language.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, you can't say, hey, throwing F-bombs at me isn't going to work today.
Yeah.
And like I had a coach say, oh, this is hockey. I can't say fuck. And no, not to me.
Well, you got mics, you got video, you got everything around.
Yeah.
There was one night I was doing a playoff game. It was St. Cloud, North Dakota. Bob Moskow was coaching St. Cloud at the time. So I come out for my second period lap, and Bob's standing there by the door waiting for me. I'm like, what the? So I do my lap. I go, I'll be right there, and I come over. Linesman standing right next to me, so you always have the linesman next to you for assistance, right? And Bob's yelling at me. He's like, you told one of my players to fuck off. I got you on camera saying fuck off. I go, whoa. I go, I definitely said fuck, Bob, but I didn't say fuck off. I go, your captain goes, how's that a fucking hold? And I went, that's a fucking hold. And I go, and that's what I said. I go, I didn't say fuck off. And I went, right on out of there.
And you fucked off.
Yeah, but I fucked off. That's very good. But now I'm like pissed at myself because I swore and now I had to go defend it. Right? It doesn't matter because I said the word. Now I have to defend it.
So we had almost like an epidemic in junior hockey of guys saying faggot. To a
Oh
player,
yes,
all
that
right?
was a big thing.
And so you call a hearing, and a lot of them would be like a second language, would be a Russian player or whatever it is.
Yep.
And so, guys, don't tell me it's just trash talk. It's the heat of the game. I said, one of the things we're trying to do is prepare you for the next level at college. You use homophobic slur like
deal.
that, you're not worried about missing a game or two. You could get thrown off the team. You could get thrown out of school. So whatever penalty we're going to give you here is mild compared to what you might be facing if you go onto a campus next year and you continue it. And I do think a lot of them didn't think twice about it. They didn't think it was a big deal. And in fact, I didn't think when I mentioned to the coaches, or I'd say, hey guys, we've had like a 3-week stretch where there's been like 6 of them.
Yeah, we
you
had a
gotta
lot.
talk to your team. And I got the impression that some of them weren't that, really.
Yeah,
I
right.
said, I'm telling you, I mean, the ref's going to hear it, they're going to call it, and they're going to be in front of me, and I know what I have to do for my job, And
I put that on the coaches. Like
yeah,
I mean,
if
obviously
the right
kid,
culture, they know they can't
right,
say it.
right.
I mean, the kids should know better.
Yes.
In this day and age,
Yep.
they should know better,
Yep.
right? But kids are kids, right? But
But these are
coach,
19, 20, 21. They're not really kids.
Well, yeah,
Right,
that's
yeah.
true.
Or
That's
18,
true.
19, 20.
Very
I don't
true.
think they're
No,
kids.
you're
I don't
right.
consider them kids, no.
Yeah, you're right. But the coach, like that goes right back to the coach. If you're a coach that mother f's this and this and that,
Yep.
and when I coach, I it's part of the like you said, it's just part of your lexicon. You just say it, right?
Look at these
But-
guys in the finals. These two coaches in the finals. They don't seem to get too worked up
No,
over
they'll say
anything.
it.
No, Paul Maurice is hilarious.
He's not going to worry about referees.
And I'm not
Oh,
a
my
big
God.
fan of the in-game interview because usually people
I don't
say
like that
anything.
either, no.
He's really good.
It's awesome.
He is good.
And like what did he say? How someone asked him, how do you feel about the hit on? It was that elbow.
Yeah.
And he goes, what does it matter how I feel? This isn't the Oprah Winfrey show.
No, he's really good.
Oh,
at
he's
it.
awesome. He's awesome. I got in trouble one time when I was coaching it there. We had a game where it was out of hand. I mean, it was just over. We were getting killed, and the other team was starting to, get chippy. And so I called a timeout, and I got my guys together, and I said, listen, we're going to end this game like men. I don't want any fucking bullshit out there. Do you understand? We finished this game. Do not retaliate. You skate away. All right? We're not doing this. And I think it was, I don't know if it was assistant
with
AD
Bobby
or
Kelly?
someone. No, but one of the wasn't the AD, but it was one of the ADs, maybe the middle school AD, heard me, and so I get called in and to the AD's office, and he's like, listen, I can defend ice time, I can defend this and that, but I can't defend swearing. And at the time, Tony Amonte was the varsity coach who had no discretion when it came to language, right?
Right.
And I looked at him and I went, "You fucking kidding me, right?" And he went, "No, you." And I said, "Were you told what I said?" And he goes, "No, the message you delivered was perfect, and that's what the message we want. But you can't, I can't defend swearing." I go, "Defend it, like." You're telling me these kids are going home and they're offended by me saying that word? And he was like, well, I'm just saying, if a parent hears you, so the rest of the season, the kids knew, right? My players knew. So I go in the locker room and I go, we got to go out there and we got to fuck. I can't swear anymore. And they'd all laugh.
But I mean,
say it.
that's not the situation to have chosen.
Right.
Because the message was so correct.
It was,
If there's some other occasion where it's not a good use of it, then maybe you can have a conversation.
Right.
But we're talking about coaches' comments. I remember Bruce Cassidy, who I always liked.
awesome. Awesome coach.
He
Awesome
had a great
guy.
line. Somebody said he had a player injured. He said, is it upper body injury or a lower body injury? And he stopped for a second. He said, well, it's his hand. So if he's tying his skates, it's lower body, and if he's waving to you, it's upper body.
That's awesome. He was at he came to the Beavis tournament last summer.
He's a
awesome.
good guy.
And,
he's great.
Right after they won the cup, and he was there and played golf and was at the comedy show, and he was awesome.
He's a buddy
Great
of
guy.
Sousa's because when
Oh,
he was
okay.
coaching Providence Bruins, Sousa was at Brown.
Yep.
I think they lived in the same street or the same neighborhood.
Oh, right on.
So I made the mistake of at the All-Star, we're at Logan Airport going to the All-Star game a few years ago, and I see him at Logan, and I went up and introduced myself, and we had some common friends and whatever, and all of a sudden Muzzy comes up, the Belmont coach,
Yeah, I know Muzzy. Yeah.
Dante Muzziola,
Yep.
who's a character with a deep voice. And so I say my goodbyes, and as I'm leaving, I'm saying, "No, I'm not doing this guy a favor," and I leave, and Muzzy had him until he got through the gate, And when they won the cup, I sent an email to Cassie. I said, congratulations on your cup. I met you at the airport a few years ago. He goes, yeah, you left me with Muzzy. I mean, he knew him because Muzzy's got a connection to Eichel. I think Muzzy's wife works with Eichel's mother or something.
Okay.
So Eichel's in Vegas, right?
Yes. Yep.
So I'm sure he's seen a lot more of Muzzy.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was great in Providence to deal with. He'd be yelling and screaming, and I would skate by him like, "Are you yelling at me?" He's like, "No, but now I am."
That's when you
So
put your head down.
did you ref when Jay Leach was coaching?
Yes, he was there,
'Cause
yep.
He's now up at the Bruins. see.
I ref when Jay Leach was playing for the Sharks, I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, when he was defenseman there. Yeah,
Yeah, he just got hired by the Bruins
Yep.
as an assistant.
man, he was great.
Good guy. Now,
Dave Cuniff coached that team. Yeah.
Connie.
Right.
Yeah. I played with his son at Curry
right.
for a year. Yeah, David.
I was
Yeah.
thinking of John Cuniff when they had all the D-Day celebrations last week. In '94, I took a leave of absence to work with the Olympic team. That was the last non-NHL team. So I was Tim Taylor's assistant GM and goalie coach. The goalies were Gar Snow and Mike Dunham. But Connie was big on military histories.
Yes.
So it was the 50th anniversary of D-Day, 94.
Okay.
And we stayed in France the week before we went to Lillehammer. And we brought the team to Normandy, to the beaches, and it was
That's pretty cool.
pretty emotional.
I bet.
But John, who was a good son of South End,
Yeah, yes.
I was born in South Boston, so
No shit.
when Connie's had his wake at the funeral home, Bobby O'Connell, remember them, runs all these tournaments.
Yep. Yep.
He introduces me to
We
was
work
the
with him.
FBI agent that went rogue with Bulger.
Oh, John
John,
Conley.
John Conley.
He introduces me to John Conley, and I just read the book Black Mass.
Mm-hmm.
And there's John, he had a good hair too, and I say, hey, how you doing? He goes, John's a big college hockey fan. Oh, really? Yeah, he's a big BC fan. Oh. So I'm trying to get out of the conversation. So maybe I'll see you at a BC game this winter. He goes, oh, you're not going to see me at a BC game this winter. By that time, he was in Florida in an orange jumpsuit or something. But I was born in the old Kearney Hospital, which is now Marion Manor.
Okay. Yep. Marion Manor. Yep.
It's like an old home.
Yep. The old. Yep.
folks.
Old folks home.
So I
Yep.
went up to see the place, and I talked to the lady at the desk. I said, I was born here. She goes, no, we don't do that anymore. It's a retirement home. I said, well, can I make a reservation? I could go full circle.
That's
We
the
can start
street.
in
My,
and
my father grew right up right on Telegraph, right there.
Yeah,
Yep.
she didn't think it was funny, so I didn't get a room.
My dad fought in World War II. He was 45 when I was born. I was kind of a mistake, but he fought in World War II. He was on a destroyer escort in the South Pacific, and was in every major battle in the South Pacific, including Iwo Jima, Midway, and then the stories he used to tell were amazing. And when I went out to Hawaii, we went to the memorial. And Pearl Harbor Memorial. It was incredible.
That was awesome.
But what was even cooler was they had the same ship. Wasn't the ship, the Canfield, but it was the same class ship in Albany that they restored, destroyer escort. And my two brothers and my dad drove out, and we got the tour. But we got the tour from my dad, and he showed us where he
That's
slept.
awesome.
Oh,
and
that's pretty cool.
The hedgehogs that they used to throw over the submarines and stuff. It was pretty cool. It was really cool.
The other Riley I knew that was in the Pacific was Jack Riley, the old West Point coach. He
Oh,
flew,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and he kept a diary of all his flights, and he had the unfortunate job of, after a battle, to go in and get the whatever. He wouldn't talk about what he saw.
Yeah.
And I interviewed him 3 or 4 hours twice to do a story on him.
Yeah.
Who was just an amazing guy. I mean, the Riley family, that Riley family.
Yeah.
That Riley
They've
family.
had uninterrupted Rileys coaching West Point since 1950.
I think it's going to continue too.
It's 74. Well, they got enough.
Yeah,
of
they
the
got-
next generation.
They got one on the bench at AIC, one on the bench with him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone asks, are you related to the... And matter of fact, when I did the AIC Army game during COVID...
Oh, no kidding.
When I Hockey Jesus came back after 15 years since my last D1 college game. Luke Galvin called me the Hockey Jesus. And matter of fact, he has hockeyjesus.com. He still has that website for me in case I do something with it. But... I went out and did the game, and it was funny because Coach Riley was like, are we related? And I said, no, and we made a joke, and I
trying to
said,
get a call out of you?
Oh,
well,
yeah.
yeah, and when I went over to the AAC coach, and I said, listen, before you ask, I'm not related, okay?
He's part of that coaching tree anyway.
Yeah. Well, Billy Riley, the longtime Lowell coach. So one of my favorite stories from the convention is we had Barry Smith down there, who'd been Scotty Bowman's assistant coach and coached Elmira at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave a talk on locker room dynamics, which basically was a 40-minute talk, but you could have whittled it down to don't let the guys who hate you sit next to the guys who haven't made up their mind. Move them around. And so he had charts and he had his stories. And so are there any questions? In the back of the room, Billy Riley, and he looked like a pirate. He had a straw hat, and one eye was closed and shaved. He should have had a parrot in his shoulder. He says, what do you think of the Morso theory? And all the guys from out west turn around like, oh, Morso theory. And all the guys from the east put their head in their hands because they know something's coming.
Yeah.
And he reeled Barry in. And he goes, I don't know the Morso theory. What's that? He says, that's if you recruit a kid who's an asshole in high school, he'll only be more so by the time he gets to college. So the talk was over, and all the guys were talking about when they left the room was the Morso theory. They didn't remember anything,
nothing.
Nothing from the talk itself. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Pretty true though.
That is cool.
Yeah.
But cool that, like, one of the things, to go back to World War II, because one of the things my dad said was tough was every time they would park off the beach, right, like of Iwo Jima, they were off the beach just far enough that the Japanese mortars couldn't hit them.
Yeah.
And they'd just blast their big guns into the hills. But they'd be in, like, no shirt on in the sun while the Marines were getting annihilated on the beach. And he said that was one of the hardest things to do because there was nothing they could do other than blast the guns. And here they are. He goes, we're getting a tan, and these poor guys are just getting annihilated. And it was like that at every freaking island.
Yeah. Well, the story of D-Day is unbelievable.
Oh, the D-Day, it's just incredible. Yeah. I mean, just like the whole thing, even now, like a world war, right? Like you that concept is just, because now it's like a video game, right? It's
drones
not
and
drones and all this stuff. And the fact that, like, my father enlisted at 17. He lied and went in at 17 in senior year in high school. Like, find me a 17-year-old that's going to lie to enlist in a war now. Like, it's just, that's why it was the greatest generation.
Yep.
I mean, it's just amazing. So, but we're off on a little tangent.
That's
No, that's what this podcast does.
But one thing one more story. Matter of fact, when I was on Josh's podcast, we got into this somehow, but my dad's ship escorted the Missouri into Tokyo Bay when they signed the surrender.
End of the war, yeah.
Right? And he said the bay was lined with Japanese soldiers. And he said until pen went to paper, they didn't know
What was going to happen? Yeah.
they were going to sign it or if it was going to be an ambush. And he said it was a pretty crazy thing. And then they went on, they went on land after it was surrounded. And he said one place, everything was bombed out except this one little place. This one building was not touched. And they were like, what the hell is, and they're like, oh, that's the whorehouse. They didn't bomb that. It was like, and whether or not it was or not, it was hilarious.
That's a funny joke.
Yeah. But I want to talk about some of the books you wrote. Because just as an aspiring author, it's just the fact of starting a book and finishing a book to me is an accomplishment.
And I'm actually reading some self-help stuff about. I want to write fiction. I haven't written any fiction.
Okay.
And it's like everybody thinks they can run a restaurant because they eat at restaurants. I think I can write fiction because I read a lot. But I gotta learn about plot development and character development. But the books I've written have been pretty. Looking back, they were natural. The first one I was in journalism school and I wrote a book on goaltending, and I remember driving to Chicago Stadium to see the Blackhawks play the Canadians, and I typewritten manuscript, and I waited with the fans after the game. Ken Dryden is signing autographs, and I gave him an envelope. I said, I wrote a book. I'd like you to look at it. Played at Harvard. I played against Cornell. And he's signing, and he goes, who are the Cornell goalies? And he's quizzing me. I said, Dave Ellenboss and Brian Cropper. And he takes the thing. I said, great. So 3 months later, my mother comes. I'm painting a house. My dad, my mother pulls up. Hey, Ken Dryden called you. I said, well, it's either Ken Dryden or it's Billy Cleary saying he's Ken Dryden. So either way, it was a pretty good hockey player. All right? So I go back and say Quebec Exchange, and I call. It's Dryden. And I had asked him if he'd do an introduction to the book, and he goes, I'm going to write my own book someday, which he did spectacularly. He says, but if you ever want to come up and go through your book, I'd sit down with you and go through it. I said, say when. So I drove to his house in Quebec, sat in his couch.
Ken Dryden.
Page by page, he's making punctuation suggestions. He took a section out, and I had a cheeseburger. His wife made me a cheeseburger. I got in the car and I drove home.
That is incredible.
So that was book number one. Book number two was a history of Harvard athletics, which a guy named Jack Fowler was supposed to have done. He got a job at Sports Illustrated, so he handed that off to me. And that was like a coffee table book, a lot of pictures.
I still can't get over Ken Dryden.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And
you handed him a book and then ended up on his couch.
And I'm sitting there and
That's insane.
My father had like one of those. I don't know where he got it. He must have acquired it somewhere, but
Quiet it.
it was like a
quite a
little.
lot of stuff.
Yeah, I did.
There was a little statue of Montreal. I'm like, Dad, I go, how come you got a Montreal? Like when I was a little kid.
Was he one of
Yeah,
these?
yeah, it was this. Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I go, why do we have? I go, a huge Bruins fan, hated Montreal. I go, why do we have a Montreal? He's the best goalie of all time. Yeah. I go, well, all right, cool.
he
Then that got my love of goaltending, like right there.
He single-handedly beat a team that
He
should
was
not have
incredible.
lost the cup.
They won
Right.
cups in 70 and
He
72,
was
and
incredible.
arguably the 71 team was their best team. And,
Yeah.
and he comes out of college and beats them. In his book, he says playing in the Boston Garden for Cornell against BCBU in those games, he thought prepared him for playing a big game like that. Which
Right.
is, I mean, if
Makes sense.
that's what worked for you. Go with it.
That's wild.
So then the Hockey Coach's Bible was another one where that's more of editing a book where Mark Dennehy did a chapter, Parker did a chapter, Nate Lehman did a chapter.
Oh, nice.
And,
Yeah, it's
and
pretty
I did
cool.
the goaltending chapter. And then the last two have been fun. The memoir, late in the third, it's really, hockey guys have stories. You know, we all have stories. You have a lot of stories.
So we started this
That's why
podcast.
that's why we're
And
sitting here.
so I try not to make it an ego trip like, hey, look at me. But there were a lot of stories. So there's a chapter on growing up in Arlington, which is a hockey town, a chapter playing at Harvard, a chapter on goaltending, a chapter on adult hockey, which I had the most fun writing because some of the teams I played on, you know, I played for the Budweiser Kings. And
That's-
we played out in Pittsfield or somewhere in Western Mass. And we're coming back, stopped to get something to eat, and there's a diner. It's a live music diner. I said, okay. So we go in and we sit at the counter of the diner, and the building's like an H, like a capital H. The diner on one side, a little walk through, and a bar on the other. And live music, I'm listening to it. Something seems funny with the music. So we finish our burger and we go on the other side. And the live music was a drummer and a jukebox. And if nobody was putting coins in the jukebox, the guy just sat there with his beer. And then somebody puts a coin in, and the song plays, and the drummer gets the beat of it, and he starts playing the drums with the jukebox.
That was the
And
live
the songs
music?
run out, he just gets his beer again. So that was the live. That was the live music.
That's
But
awesome.
I had stories of playing with the Clovers and you know Bobby O'Connell's team, all the Southie guys
Oh, yeah.
that you know. Connie was on that team. Billy
Nice.
O'Dwyer.
Oh, yeah, Billy. Oh, yeah.
And then I get into the college hockey part, the ECAC, the Hockey East, and the Coaches Association. And then in the back, I reprinted a lot of stories that I had previously published somewhere else. And because I do this newsletter for the Coaches Association, so those Jack Riley stories were in there, and Jack Parker, Tim Taylor, there's a guy named Al Renfrew who coached in Michigan. I remember he was in his late 80s, and I called him to do an interview. I said, Al, how you doing? Well, the doctor said I got 2 weeks to live, and I knew it was a joke. I said, really? He goes, yeah. I told him I'd take the last week of January and the third week of March. and then we were off. Then we were off. You know? So, and then last year I did this book about the Friendship Four. So we started this tournament in 2015 in Northern Ireland. I'd never been to Ireland. And you know about the strife between Catholics and Protestants. And what I didn't know is if you said your father played hurling or Gaelic football, you indicated what side of the issue you were. You know?
Right.
One of them was a Protestant sport, one was a Catholic sport. But if you said hockey, there was no history. They started the Belfast Giants in 2000, and they made a rule: if you go to the hockey game, you don't wear your colors. You got to wear the teal of the hockey team. And it was an event that brought people together. Okay. So in that spirit, they start this Friendship Four, 2 ECAC teams, 2 Hockey East teams, and they play for a championship. They have a school bell they give out. And it's been awesome. And so I wrote a history of the tournament, but it wasn't just photos and hockey. Each chapter had a theme: friendship, opportunity, education.
Right.
Because all those things are important to these guys. So it's always Thanksgiving weekend. Teams go over. They usually hit Dublin for a night or two. They bus 2 hours up to Belfast, to first-class building. It's a great city. I mean, they just all the political history, but the Titanic was built there. They have a great Titanic museum. They have T-shirts that say, "Hey, it was all right when I left here." and the people couldn't be
awesome.
nicer. I mean, there's a pub on every corner, and I learned to like Guinness, and I've been 14, 15 times, going back in the fall.
Nice.
And I think I have another book coming up. They want to do a 25-year history of the Belfast Giants, and they've offered me to do that. So
Oh, good for you.
it'll keep me out of trouble for another few months.
That's awesome. I love the late in the third.
Well, that's where I am.
That's why I brought it up, because you said that
I'm
before.
hoping for a long overtime, you know.
5 overtimes, maybe. You never know, right?
Let's not kid ourselves. That's where I am.
Oh, that's great. So I have one book I started. It's on my computer, called "Not Every Kid Should Get a Trophy: The Age of Entitlement."
There we
right?
go. There we
And
go.
it's all about how we've ruined society by giving
Yep.
kids participation trophies.
Right.
Matter of fact, I have a chapter: "Stop carrying your kid's hockey bag out of the rink," because that's a problem
The
across
kids
the
got
board.
the pizza and the Coke. And
Yep.
there's mom and dad with the bag.
Not 11 or 12-year-old kid with the dad. I want to sack tap the dad as he walks by.
Well, they got
you know?
wheels on the bags too.
Well, that's
so-
even worse when they're dragging it, wheeling it.
But
and
I
the
mean,
kid
if
can't
you're
wheel.
playing over 50 hockey, I think.
Don't let Grav see you.
Yeah, wheeling's okay at this age.
I want to have like a John Deere hockey bag that you actually get in it.
And ride it out.
Drive
to
it
your
into
car.
the rink. You know,
Yeah.
certain rinks would be easier to get around.
Yeah.
I mean, the West Suburban in Natick, where you have those stairs and you're going, you couldn't drive it into that one. But some
That's brilliant.
get out goalie equipment. It's-
I didn't know any better, and I bought the goalie bag for
the wheels?
No, just the big goalie bag.
yeah.
It's like the huge, like you could fit the whole team in
you
it.
sleep in it.
Yeah. And I was like, my daughter's 8. I don't think I need the big one. No, she can't carry that thing. I'm always lugging it. And JP McCursey, he's the goalie coach. So every time I walk into the rink, he just gives my daughter shit. He's like, "How come Dad's carrying the bag?" I go,
I think an adult hockey bag should have like a cooler built into
Yes.
one end of it. So you get your skates, you get this, you that. You can put the ice in. You can put the beers for afterwards. Bring it right into the rink. You keep your empties in there.
$1 million.
nobody
Yeah,
knows.
no, yep. Take
I mean,
good
a lot
rid of the
rinks
evidence.
Don't let you drink.
Yep.
That's what I used to like about Hockey Town, because you'd be skating with the owner, and so there was always beer in the locker room afterwards.
Hockey Town, anything goes.
Yes.
Well, that's the quickest timed interval in life is when somebody ices the puck in an adult hockey game and the ref waves it off.
Yep.
Like the puck hasn't even left the guy's stick and he waves it off. If it's the 10:30 game, you're not getting any extra whistles.
Nothing.
So the Jimmy Doyle rule in hockey night is you don't signal at all. Like you don't acknowledge it, it doesn't exist.
There you go.
That's how.
They have the painted line on the cinder block wall.
Yeah.
So if it's
Oh,
above
yeah.
the line, it's out of the rink, and if it's below
Below
the
the
line,
line, yeah.
We joked about that.
Oh, yeah.
How if it hits a certain place in the wall,
I
they
think
got to
they
kill
put the
play.
glass up. I think they
did.
fixed
I
it.
heard
yeah.
they did.
really?
I heard they ruined it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's Gil Martin bought it, right?
Oh, did he? Did he
owns
buy
it.
it?
Yeah.
Oh,
he kept, He kept a lot of the old Hockey Town. Paul Powers still works there.
Oh, good.
Different guys. Yeah.
You,
I didn't know they bought that.
yeah, you still get hit into the concrete wall though, which is always good for the shoulder.
That's who we should get. We should get those guys on sometime. They'd be good guests.
Who?
The Gil Martins.
You're not going to lack people with personality in this sport. You shouldn't.
No. I mean, hockey's just such a.
It's a unique.
it's-
Yeah.
Unless
It
you get a
brought
guy,
Northern Ireland and Ireland together. I mean,
unless you get a guy that like you know is a funny guy and you're having beers, he's telling stories, and then you put him here and you go on.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
yeah,
Freeze.
Crickets.
we haven't had that yet.
No.
I think everyone's.
Your
I think
research department has done a good job at vetting the.
My father was way overdressed.
Oh my God.
Well, he didn't have his knickers or the golf outfit.
No.
He had
Actually-
a tie that was like this one.
He came from a wake. He came from a wake, and he didn't like. I'm like, you could take the tie off.
I saw a picture of your grandfather, your father's father, on Facebook.
Oh, on
You know, we
Facebook,
all
yes,
put-
with the
we
suspenders.
all put
Yeah, it's a
pictures,
great
and I
one,
go,
yeah.
oh my God, I can see the
Yep.
likeness there.
Oh yeah, all the brothers. They all kind of were very similar. Yeah.
Yep.
The big blockhead and.
Anyway, so
Yeah,
that's
anywho, we
that's your
digress.
family.
Yeah, that's my dad.
That's your dad.
So that actually, so Gravelisi does the NCAA's out in Albany, right?
supervisor or
No,
observer.
when he refereed.
when he reffed,
This, so
okay.
Wade, this is a story when I was a little kid.
Yep.
I was playing street hockey out in the streets of Celtics. I'm just shooting up against the garage, right? And I had this car, like just a whole, like coming up the street, takes a left at the beach, and I'm like, just hearing noise and loud noises. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to get on the sidewalk and start creeping into my house. And then out rolls my old man. They kicked my old man out of the car. And I went, hey, that's my dad. And Jimmy Doyle sticks his head out the window and goes, yeah, that's your dad. And he just pisses up N Street. And I'm like, him and Grant are all in the car. And I'm just like, my father just dying laughing. That was the year they rolled him down
So
in the
you
barrel.
have a great luxury in that some people, might be self-conscious telling stories about their dad. But your father tells those stories.
Oh, yeah.
So it's public domain.
Yes, and we had Luke Galvin.
The story. Donnie Garcia was on,
Oh,
and
yeah,
he
we had a
told the
couple-
helicopter story, and Gino was like, "I said no way you would have helicopter landed in Loudon."
Yep.
But they're all true.
Yeah.
But if you missed it on the TikTok or on Instagram
Check it out.
Gino posted a video of
On the
That's My
Father's Day,
Dad.
yeah.
on Father's Day when his dad found a puddle in the middle of the golf course
2
and
years
ran
ago,
and dove in and was swimming around in the puddle.
What do you say his book's going to be? You can't make this shit up?
Yeah, you can't make
Yeah.
this shit up. Yeah.
Can't make this shit up. That's what he says.
I got my hand up to be the ghostwriter,
You should.
as
You-
told to. or
Actually,
whatever.
he should sit down with you and
Oh,
write a
I
book.
would get the tape recorder going, and
Yeah.
you can
Or,
kind of
or
milk
you
guys
just,
and
or if you just jump in a car with him, go for a road trip.
just tape. Lou Vera was going to write a book about his relationship with Tarasov, the Russian coach, and I said, Lou, talk into a microphone.
Yes.
Send me the little tape, and we'll do one chapter, and we can sell the chapter to a publisher. So, and he had a great story to tell, but like he's taping it, and the doorbell rings, and the FedEx guy is there, and he doesn't shut it off, and you can hear him talking. How much do I owe you? And I'm thinking, really? Trying to transcribe this thing. So. I mean,
Fast forward too far.
When I got the Lester Patrick Award, it was at the Hall of Fame. So the Hall of Famers, and Murph was one
So
of them.
we were both there. And,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they get to do speeches.
Yep.
They tell me, they say, you don't do a speech. You're going to sit down with Steve Levy, and it's going to be Q&A. I said, well, can I get the questions at a time? It's kind of like school.
Yeah, right.
It's always easier if you know the questions.
Did a
So
great job, by the way.
Yeah,
He,
it
so
was
he
awesome.
said this, he said that, he said this. Then he said, and tell a story. I
Yes.
said, what do you mean? He goes, tell a funny story. I said, well, I know a lot of funny stories, but on demand, with
Right.
the lights are in your face, and you got all these people out there. So I had a cup of coffee with my son that afternoon. I said, Bob, I think I'm going to tell the killing the bird story.
Yes, that was a
He
good
goes, really? I said, yeah, it always seems to get a laugh. So I went with the killing the bird with the puck machine. And
Classic.
And,
story.
and I,
you should tell it for our audience.
Well-
because not everyone had the pleasure.
So
and the-
I owned,
being there.
I don't have it anymore. I sent it back to Toronto, but I owned a puck shooting machine. I owned two of them from my goalie camp. And they're pretty powerful. It looked like the size of a washing machine.
Yep.
And it had two wheels that you'd push the puck through and it fires the thing out. So I get a call from public broadcasting. There's a TV show called Fetch, and it's a couple of precocious kids and a cartoon dog, and they teach scientific lessons. And they're doing something on the strength of weaving newspaper. I don't know what it was, but they needed an object firing machine, and they heard I had a puck machine. So they drive to Gloucester, and I have it in a crate. My father built me this crate that if a tornado came down my street, the neighborhood would be raised, and that crate would still be there because it was a good contract. So I get the machine out, I pull it out. I got a gravel driveway, so it's kind of tough to pull it around. And I set up two milk crates on top of the other. I plug it in. I'm waiting for my public broadcasting people. And they show up, and they look like public broadcasting people. Very nice. And they're probably wondering what kind of a person owns a puck shooting machine. So they're about to find out. So I say, come on over. And I'm going to turn. It's been going for a while, so it should be fine. And just as I go to demonstrate, a little bird lands on the top of the milk crate. And without thinking, and I mean without thinking, I say, hey, watch this. And I push the button, and it's right in the beak. And the bird's down. And these people are looking at me like, what kind of... And I made a mistake. I said, hey, if I had tried that 100 times, and they heard, I've tried that 100 times. So we had an awkward parting of the ways, but they rented the machine, and I was in the show because the Harvard women's goalie who was supposed to be in it was Canadian. She got to the border. They said, what are you coming over the border for? I'm working a TV show.
I don't say work. Don't say
They
work
said,
coming over the border.
Where's your work
Yeah.
visa, whatever? So they wouldn't let her in.
Right.
So I get an extra $250 for being in the show.
Nice.
So the story went well until Berkey got up. Ryan Burke gets up and
That's
says,
right.
Joe BERTAGNA, what a sick individual. You're asked to tell one story, and the only thing you can come up with is killing a bird with a puck machine? You're twisted. But the other thing about that is when you walked into the lobby of the hotel, they had these 6 feet long things with your image on it.
Oh,
yeah, pictures. Yeah.
Yeah.
So USA Hockey guy says, hey, do you want your banners? There's 3 of them. I said, well, what are you going to do with them? He said, we're going to throw them out. I said, I'll take them. Oh, they're in these nice canvas containers, and I'm checking out of the hotel. My wife goes, what are those? Oh, those things with me on it. What are we going to do with those? I said, I don't know. They're going to throw them out. She goes, they'd look good at your wake. And she said it in a way that implied that she had put some thought into it.
Yeah.
So they haven't left the storage shed that they were brought home on.
Now, I'll be honest with you, Joe. At your wake, when we show up and
Those
see
are there.
those things, we're going to piss our pants laughing. I'm just telling
Oh
you
my
now.
gosh, you were serious.
We'll get...
She also was in. If you watch the video of that night, Steve Lee says, "Where are you going to put your Lester Patrick trophy?" And from the crowd, you hear my wife going, "Not in the living room."
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yes, I remember that.
And
was
I get
great.
home, I played the video, and you can hear. There she is.
That was a great
well-
night.
that was a
Oh,
good
they
night.
know how to throw a party. That was.
USA Hockey.
Steve Levy does a nice job emceeing
Oh, he's
those.
really good.
Yeah. It was the USA Hockey Hall of Fame,
Yep.
induction. Just
One question
in
they
Boston
didn't
this
ask.
year.
They wanted me to. They were going to ask me a question. You went to Harvard. How did Brian Burke get into Harvard? That was going to be the
Oh,
question.
that would have been good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had an answer already. I was going to say, well, I said, Pat Kelleher, USA Hockey, went to Brown. Gary Bettman went to Cornell. Bill Daly went to Dartmouth. I said, just about every Ivy school, I said, I'm sure they all have guys from Yale working the mailroom. And then I was going to say, you can't hire one Harvard guy? And then I never got the chance.
never got the chance. The bird story, though.
Yeah, he
is-
started out, goes, I said, do you want to hear how he killed a bird? He goes, is it an uplifting story? I said, not for the bird.
For the birds, that's right. That's right.
Took it right in the beak.
Oh, my God. I couldn't have done it. It's not like it has a sight on it. You can name it. It's just that you put
well-
the
It
button
just
in.
yeah.
Yeah.
you don't
It
know
could
where
have
it's
ended
go-
up in the neighbor's yard just as easily as.
Right. Could have broken
bird's
a window.
beak.
Yeah.
So I put some rocks on top of a little cross. And, rest in peace.
We're going to have PETA people writing letters now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, laughing
Pretty
about
bird.
a bird getting
Yeah.
smoked with a
they
puck.
They had to say at the end of that show, usually, no animals were harmed in the filming of the show. They had to say, except that one
Except for
bird.
this- yeah.
I used to watch that show, Fetch.
Fetch, I get
My
the-
kids loved it. Matter of fact, my daughter tried out to be on it. We went and did the whole
Yeah, it was
audition.
That issue, they took folded up rolled newspapers, and they put them like thatched or whatever, and you could shoot a puck at them, and it wouldn't break. If you just taped them across, I don't know, there was some
way
by
they
going in
weaved
and
it,
out,
yeah.
weaved it.
Yeah.
You create strength, which must have been the science lesson of the week. But I have the CD of the show. It just kind of
Oh, my God.
Even a hockey
You know
puck
what?
can't break
You
it.
have the video of that?
the show,
Oh,
not
well-
of the
well-
bird. I don't have the video of the bird, but I have the video of the show.
I was hoping you had the video. The bird needed some of those papers. They should have
That's
given
right,
the
right in
papers.
front of him. Yeah.
Right? And then it would
Talk
have
to
been
Randy
fine.
John. You're in the
Right.
Randy Johnson
He
camp.
might still be with us. Oh, gosh.
Oh, that's too funny. Well, I think, we could go on and on and on for another hour and a half, but I don't know if,
You have a long ride. I don't.
well, we do have a long ride. And this might be the first episode, though, that Frankie Chirps has not barked once.
Oh, I think he's in rapt
think-
attention. He hasn't heard these stories, and
He must be.
he probably doesn't like birds either. So we probably have that in common.
If he got a hold of a bird, he would treat it like the puck did. I'll tell you that right now. Of course, most birds are bigger than him because he's 4.2 pounds, but that's
might be
beside the
lunch.
point. That's beside the point.
Well, I saw you gave him a healthy diet before when you came in from
Couple munchkins, a little munchkin. He's got a sweet tooth. You know, you got to put a little weight on somehow. You know, so he's a movie star now, though. So he's got his own Instagram, Frankie Chirps. If you want to give it a follow. Oh yeah, got a lot of good stuff on there. So I promote my dog more than me.
Dog people. Yeah.
more,
There's a lot of dog
more
people out
followers
there.
than you have.
No, not quite yet, but it's
trending.
yeah, it's definitely trending. Everyone loves a Yorkie. Come on, how can you not love a Yorkie? He's so cute. That's all I get. Well, Joe, thank you very much for coming on. This has
This
been
was
awesome.
fun. And,
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you for coming
And you
on.
wore the
I've been
right
looking
hat.
forward to this.
I've been meaning
I
to
did.
say you had the right hat on.
I was gonna bring the hat, the 50-year one you sent my
Oh,
daughter,
yeah,
but
yeah,
she
yeah,
had it
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
She wears it. Yeah.
I did have to. I'm not one of these guys with the flat.
I don't like the flat
so I had to
bird,
do a
yeah.
little
I
bit
gotta
of
give
this
the
before I
old
got
baseball
here.
curve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Used to have my little league schedule inside the back. Playing the games. So.
It's awesome.
I like your
Thanks
post-its
for
too.
having me, guys. This was fun.
Well, speaking
this
of
was
merch,
great.
if you want merch, we have the trucker hats. You were wearing one of the T-shirts. We have hoodies. We have quarter zips. You just got to go on to chirpingzebras.com, send an email to merch@chirpingzebras.com, and I'll fire it out to you.
Yeah, I'd send something with stripes to Jack Parker. Might be a nice summer gift.
We should
Yeah, we
send
should.
him a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Something he can
Right?
wear on his sailboat.
Yeah.
Maybe we can
So
have
I
him on.
ran into Coach Schaefer, Mike Schaefer, down by the pool.
Who's retiring?
Yes, he's retiring. Yep. He saw my hat and he's looking at it. He's like, "What the hell is that?" I go, "It's my podcast, Coach." I go, "When you getting on?" He goes, "I'd love to get on that." So he's gonna get an email from me at some point.
I got to tell you one last story. Jack Parker's boat is called Arts and Letters, which was the name of a horse that won. It was either the Preakness or the Belmont. But his father put a bet on the horse, and his father had a heart attack and died. So at the wake, a couple of guys come up to Jack's mother and says, "Are you Lefty Parker's widow?" And she says, yes. They say, sorry for your loss, and they reach in and they have an envelope of cash. Left you without a winner. And he bet on the horse won, and then he dropped dead.
No shit.
And the bookies came and gave them the winnings, and that's the name of Jack's boat, Arts and Letters.
That was the horse's name.
Horses, yeah.
That's
Unlike
a
Billy
great
Riley,
story.
whose
That is a great
boat
story.
was the Misconduct, which is appropriate.
Yeah, it is
Yes,
very appropriate.
very appropriate.
Not
We had a
quite
miss-
as romantic story, but it's
Well, that you know what that shows. It's funny. Like a bookie makes good on the
honor
on the
among
bet.
thieves.
On the
yeah.
bet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that. That shows you that, you know,
Imagine that though. You'd be there, and some guys say, "Are you Lefty's widow?" Yeah.
lefty.
And they reach into their coat. It's like, what is going on here?
That'd be a great scene in a movie.
Yeah.
I can imagine that. I grew up in Celtic.
You know, I'm sure that's not the first wake that happened at, but that's
Well, it's good to know that they follow up. So
that's really cool. And to name your boat that.
yeah.
Yeah, misconduct. We had a misconduct in the penalty box down in Pensacola. She sat there in the visitors' penalty box. I think I told the story. And she'd like distract the team when they got a penalty, you know. And I went into the skater run. I always tied my skates again after I skated around. So I went in that box because
Why not?
Why not? And I was like, well, and I get talking. And she's like, I just try to distract him, give him back rubs and stuff. So she starts rubbing my neck. Andy Van Helmont's at the game. And he was like, Riles, what are you doing? Why you got to go in? I said, I was tying my skates. She's, relaxing me before the big game. It was tight. Like, Jesus Christ. Anyway, that was my misconduct. So I don't know what we should get a boat. Call it Chirping Zebras.
There you go.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
Sinking Zebras.
You might be getting ahead of yourself here a little bit, but
Oh, yeah, no, my boat,
maybe by episode 30, 40.
106.
Yeah. 106.
If we get a second sponsor.
We're
Sell
working
some
on
merch.
them.
No, we're doing well. And speaking of which, like and subscribe on YouTube. Speaking about getting paid, we need those subscriptions. So we're at like 4 or something.
Yeah, we're getting there.
420 or something like
415,
that.
420, yeah.
We're getting there. But like and subscribe on YouTube. Find us on all the social medias, the Instagram, the Facebook, the TikTok. We're on there. We'll have some great reels from this episode for sure.
And check us out in Pat Shea's new series he's
Pat
coming
Shea's
out
new
with.
series coming out on YouTube, and also our title sponsor, Referees
Referees
Crease.
Crease.
As always, we always want to give them a shout out. Shout out to AOA Studios, where we tape this fine broadcast, and check us out. Check me out on MarkRileyComedy.com or ThatComedianWasFunny.com. Yeah. Oh, yeah. How about that, Joe? You like
like
that?
that one.
Because no one remembers names nowadays.
Hey, that guy was good.
And remember, July 12th, our first live podcast taping at Wicked Funny Comedy Club in China Blossom, North Andover. We're going to have the taping of the podcast and then comedy show
Monster
after.
show.
Monster show. Tony V, Paul Nardizzi, Josh Dolan, our producer.
I think the old man's coming up for that
Yours
one.
truly- we got to have him on. We might throw him on for 5 minutes
Small
up on
set,
stage.
yep.
Although it's a different world up in that stage.
Once the word
Your
gets
uncle
out.
found out.
Oh, yeah.
Aldo found out.
Oh, Aldo
that night
found
at,
out. Yeah, he did
Tadio's.
it. We always
Yeah.
do like a comedy night or something. My father throws something at Tadio's bar every year, and we did a comedy night. So Michael Aldo's a funny whatever wise
up
ass.
there.
He got up there. Crickets. Didn't land.
I remember going, that's a little harder than it looks. But that's going to do it. We want to thank Joe BERTAGNA for coming on. Episode 19. Follow us, like, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time right here on Chirping Zebras. For Gino Bender Jr., I'm Mark Riley. We'll see you next time.